this type of optimism is unjustifiable. You can't look and you can't just think up this type of stuff and you can't justify it, is what I'm trying to say. This type of optimism that you can make a new world, you can change the world, you can leave your fingerprints on the pages of history, you can write the book you want to read, all of that stuff. People don't necessarily believe that. They don't believe it. Why they don't believe it? Because they're not trying to do it. Therefore, they accept the world the way it is. Now, there's a difference between us and them. They accept the world the way it is, and we don't accept it. We don't accept second-class citizenship. We don't accept murder of people all over the world. We don't accept all of these wars. They're not necessary. They're unnecessary. The only reason we have them is because psychopaths is running the world. That's why we have them. That's why we didn't have all the wars, because no tazkiyah bil nafs, no purification of the nafs. They want to raid this country and raid that country and invade Yemen and do that. That's because psychopaths run the world. And we're not going to put up with it. That's all. We're not going to put up with it. It don't make no difference whether we so-called win or lose. No, that's not what it is. It's whether you've studied somewhat of the Quran and Hadith and you kind of got an idea of what it's saying and you go out after it. That's what it's all about. Willpower, fortitude, self-command, self-mastery, tenacity, constancy, even professionalism, endurance, relentlessness. Now, this is what we've been dealing with all along, and we've been telling everybody about being archivist. We're going to archive this whole thing. We've been saying this for decades, that we're archiving. Documentalists, we're documenting all of this. You notice every time we come, we got a stack of documents. A stack of documents. That's all. Why? Because we've been documenting everything that's happened. Chronicles, historians. That's what we've become. Dear believers, historians, archivists, chroniclers. That's what we've been, and now here we are, dealing with the resistance movement of North America. Well, what kind of resistance movement? What kind of national war of liberation are you people trying to do? Remember, we had the program last summer, nonviolent resistance, except alternative resistance. The church, the mosque, the synagogue, those are the institutions that will change the world. Now, you remember that you're dreaming, you got to go ahead after it. You don't. I have preacher friends in Oakland. I said, man, all we got to do is this. I said, just imagine, you see that BMW you got out there, is it a 640, 740, something like that? I said, you see that BMW you got out there? So all you got to do is get rid of that boy and live a life like Jesus. Man, I didn't get into this, you know what I mean, to be poor. In fact, it's the same homeboy when I accepted Islam. He say, man, why you accept Islam? Why you didn't get in the church, you know, and get the heat off you like I did? I said, the only reason I accepted it is because, well, I actually believe it. Other than that, hell, I'd have did the same as you. Got a big federal case and trying to find a way to get as less time as I can. That's what I would have did if I didn't believe it. I mean, I would do it, you know. So imagine, you have to look at it like this. We got certain things we could do. Imagine the religions of the world have the right ideas, they have enough people, they have enough money, they have the structure, they have the organization. If we started there, if the imams started living like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we'd be on a roll. Instead of the nickel and dime the imams we got now, you holler at them, they break and run, stuff like that. Just imagine if the imams lived the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man, that would be grand. Just think about it. How nice that would be. How impressive that would be. How energetic, how mobilized. You could mobilize people, organize people. You could get anything done. Just by living the real example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so let's get back to resistance movement of North America. That's what we are. We're As-Sabiqun, but As-Sabiqun plus. Remember, we did everything that As-Sabiqun say, but we're doing even, man, the more we study As-Sabiqun, what it means, the deeper it gets. And it is serious. They anticipate. They win the race. They go out in front of everybody. Sometimes they do the job before anybody know it need be done, and they gone. They were the people before Badr. That's what they was. I mean, they're the ones that lead the way. As-Sabiqun, we have for the last 30 years, that's what we've been. That's what we've been. We anticipate all the stuff that they talk about. We don't want to talk about the brothers, but look what the brothers say. Conference focuses on how social invisibility of African American Muslims lead to psychological trauma. They did it to themselves. Niggas isolated themselves. They cut themselves off. They sold themselves to the low, highest bidder. Now they're not even on the program no more, hardly. They call it invisibility. Well, there's still a couple running around. They used them to build their giant Masjid out in Virginia, in Maryland, and everywhere else. They used the Negro. They pimped the Negro. They hustled the Negro. That's what they did. And now, when you got a tool, when you go to breakfast or dinner, you don't bring your tool with you, you put it in the closet. You don't sit up there with your tools. The Negro is a tool. He thought he was going to be at the breakfast table and the dinner table, and he's not there. He's invisible. This is what he says. This is a conference of 150 Negroes, something like that. Imam's council, 30 people, something. They feel invisible. And now they're suffering from psychological trauma. And then the same people trying to tell them the same thing all the time, they don't listen to them. We get busted upside the head and nobody cares. It don't make no difference whether nobody cares. Absolutely not. We'll explain how that's engineered too. Just hold on a minute. Just hold on a second here. Okay. National War of Liberation. When they talk in movies and in history about national wars of liberation, this is what we're dealing with. We're trying to liberate the Islamic movement in America from foreign domination and from internal, I mean Western oppression. This is a war of liberation, a national war, and then an international war of liberation. We call it Sabiqun Liberation Organization and Sabiqun Liberation Movement. And we know that there's some parts of it which are psychological asymmetric warfare. It is a type of warfare that is mainly psychological, and you use the characteristics of the battle and the battlefield and the battle space that fits you. It's asymmetric. Mission, liberation struggle to liberate Islamic movement from foreign control and domination, inferiority complexes, sold out leadership, liberate the agenda. Can you imagine the agenda? Is all of what they want. You know, I had a good, believe it or not, I shouldn't mention it, but last night when I was at Dar al-Hijra passing out the flyers again, I saw Abdul-Rahman al-Amudia. Now he had called me on the phone, and he said some nice things, so we'll just leave it at that. National mobilization. We'll worry about national mobilization a little bit later. College of Islamic Movement Studies. We're doing that right now. This is the college right now. Department of Strategic and Islamic Studies. That again is what's happening right now. Now, you have to have vision now. You got to think, man, there's only 3 or 4 people here. This don't look good. Well, that means that there's more room for growth and development. So mankind have to take charge of his own life. We're not reporting history anymore. We're making history. Now, anybody that don't think that this stuff is real, take it, just look around. I mean, hey man, all of what we're saying right here is R-E-A-L, it's real. Very real on each and every level, and it's just a big deal. Regional vision, da-da-da-da-da, we'll get into that a little bit later. We shall teach the world how it's done. That's what we're doing now. You gotta remember, the world don't think you can do it. The world, the people, the Muslims, they don't think what we're doing. We haven't got a good morning and a how do you do from ISNA, ICNA, CARE, nobody, right? We haven't got even a hello from none of them folks. There's a difference between, or it used to be, between the immigrant movement or the immigrant Muslims and the indigenous Muslims. All of us came from the old, a lot of the old time stuff. Well, the chief come along a little later. But it was the civil rights movement, civil liberties, black nationalist movement, all of those. And finally, you know, the underground movement, then Islam. Like Imam Jamil, now they came to Islam. So they naturally handed the black movement to Islam. They handed it over to us. And we took the bait. We talked that talk, the beast and the white man and all of that. We did, yes, we did. And that was our attitude for years. But you have to remember, the immigrant don't come here with that in his mind. He wants to drive a cab. He wants to be a doctor. He wants to get his business up and rolling. And he don't care nothing. He's happy the way America is. He wants America to be America, like what he thought it was. He don't care nothing about no injustice. Injustice, shoot. Man, I can drive a cab here and bring my family from overseas. I can do this, that, and another. What do I care about injustice? I got 10 times as much justice here as I get at home. You don't pay the guy on the corner, the police, he'll shoot you. Back home, yeah, tear up your cab, whatever you want to do. Here, you just have to be ransacked and hustled to death. But you can still pull off 10 times more than you can back home. That's what he wants. So there's a difference between the immigrant Muslim and the indigenous Muslim. Us, the immigrants, want things the way they are. And they have established things to keep them like that. All of they've pulled themselves up and then snatched the ladder behind them. If you come to pass out flyers, they want you off the property. If you come to raise money, you got to go through this right here, which means no, unless you're an Arab or somebody. That's the way it is. They done now got to where they want, and you see what they're doing to the Negro, they're closing him off. He feels a trauma or something. So we have to teach the word. We are now teaching people what you can do. When we pass out these flyers with blood streaming all out our head, people say, oh, that's terrible. I said, it ain't terrible, as sweet as it can be. I said, when I was on the highway coming into Phoenix, I got pulled over by the police. And the police had a civilian with him. And so the police was asking me with a flashlight in my eye, can you go over here, go over here? He was giving me the exact same test. And then the police asked the other one for his number. Your damn number. So I said to the police, last month, no, it was December. I said, this is some kind of medical examination? You know what? They had this stuff timed. And they wanted to know, is he gonna get back to DC in time for me to go into the hospital and get